Hello there, welcome in. I'm at the O'Hare Airport in Chicago. I know I was just at 49ers OTAs, got on a plane at SFO very quickly, and there's actually a Hilton inside the O'Hare Airport, which is really handy. Rushed over here, started at the live. I know it was a big day for 49ers coverage, so I didn't want to leave you hanging at night. We'll call it a late night Lombardi, to be fair. Now, I understand. I'm looking over at actually, I have the watch now. Why don't I look at this? This is on Central Time, so I'm 12:25. I understand it's 10:25 p.m. West Coast time. This officially qualifies as a late night Lombardi, and I could tell the people are surprised because we have 4 viewers as we're starting this one right now. So I think it's going to get a little bit bigger, but we're going to go through some of the observations from 49ers OTAs today, which was the first practice open to the media. There's going to be another one next week. I'm guessing it's going to be on Wednesday. The following week should be on Tuesday, and we'll see if the 49ers bump up their veteran minicamp a week as they have done over the past couple of seasons. The last time that they actually stuck true to the original schedule was 2019, which meant mid-June for the veteran minicamp to wrap up the off-season program before the 40 days off. But if Kyle Shanahan believes that the 49ers have gotten enough work done at some point during these OTAs, he can decide to wrap it early. And usually if he wraps it early, he bumps that veteran mini camp up a week. Nick Bosa, Deebo Samuel, whoever's not around right now. Bosa is the big name. Obviously, it's not expected to show up until it's mandatory. Those guys would show up for the mandatory mini camp. Anyway, we have some footage for you on the channel. We'll play some during this show. Oh, there it goes. Mike popped it open. You see Trey Lance up on the screen. It might be a little bit choppy when we're running it through YouTube right now. I think that's probably very choppy, so maybe we won't play too much of it. But that's just a little bit of a preview for you of what you can see in non-choppy mode if you go to the channel right now. So go ahead and check it out. Trey Lance throwing a lot. And Trey Lance's motion improvements are very, very real. My question is, are they sustainable? And I'm going to make some videos over the course of tomorrow and the day after that, looking at Trey Lance's motion, because we have clear video evidence from our own eyes now. We're not having to rely on cameraman at TCU filming Trey Lance working out with Patrick Mahomes and Jeff Christensen. We have really clear evidence that he's cleaned up his base and he's cleaned up the release. He's no longer looping way down here when he's releasing the football. Trey Lance is staying up here, which is really important at this level of play, and he's getting rid of the ball much more quickly. The reason I ask, is it sustainable, is because you revert to bad habits once live action begins. That typically is the course of events, and Trey Lance is going to need to hold on to as many of these good new habits as possible as the action intensifies over the course of this calendar year. When I was watching him today, he looked night and day different from what I saw the last time that Trey Lance was on that practice field, which was early last season before he got hurt. It's very, very clear that he has tightened up a lot of things, that he has been in the lab, and that's great news for the 49ers. Colin Kaepernick, though, he was in the lab too, and he reverted back to bad mechanics when he was out on the football field. So, and that's just one of the many players. And I could go into different sports as well. Guys have different, shooting motions in basketball when they come out of an off season. It typically, there is a tug, there's a magnetic pull to go back to bad habits once game action starts, because that's when the adrenaline is pumping, and that's when you get more into your instinctual play, right? You go into what you know best. The hope with Trey Lance is that he has so little actual snaps in game action, only played one college season at North Dakota State. The hope is that he's still moldable clay, that a lot of the habits aren't really ingrained in him. Mike is going to try this again. There we go. There we go. That's not choppy. That's not choppy at all. Cool. Well, we saw Sam Darnold's footwork. Now maybe we're going to get to go to Trey Lance in a little bit. Obviously, Brandon Allen has got to go first in this video. I like that. It's always nice when we can actually see the video, when it's not 2 frames per second, right? This is a solid 30 frames per second. Brandon Allen throwing right there. He's the 49ers' third quarterback for this offseason program. He was Joe Burrow's backup last season in Cincinnati. 30-year-old veteran, wearing the number 4 for the 49ers. So if you're wondering who that polished guy is, well, that's Brandon Allen. That is the 49ers emergency quarterback, will be QB4 in the regular season. Maybe the 49ers are able to keep him on that practice squad. All right, here comes Trey. Number 5, looks like he's in good shape. You're going to get to see the base at work here. Kyle Shanahan says with a quarterback's base, especially if he's a dual threat guy, he's got to be able to whip into throwing motion at the snap of a finger. Even when you're running the football, even when you're scrambling around a little bit, you have to be able to set and deliver. And you could see Trey Lance practicing that right now. Shuffle, 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 set, and deliver. That is a nice, quick release from Trey Lance. That is what the 49ers do like to see. Now, the question is, are these polished mechanics going to be sustainable moving forward? And that's why I have it down on the text title beneath me. Now you have Sam Darnold working out. Sam Darnold's going to split QB1 reps with Lance this offseason, but not quite yet. Sam was the QB2 today at practice. He was QB2 on Monday. He's still learning the 49ers playbook. Trey Lance has been exposed to that playbook much longer than Sam Darnold has. So Darnold eventually is going to make up for some of this QB2 time and step into that QB1 role. It's just going to be a few practices. Maybe by next week, we're going to see Darnold working a little bit more with the first team. You will not see Brandon Allen working with the first team. He is that third 49ers quarterback for the offseason. Now, obviously, the big news today, while we're at it here, while we're talking about the quarterback room, is the Brock Purdy news. It does seem that Brock Purdy has a really good chance to be ready for week 1 because he's going to resume throwing next week, and that is technically ahead of schedule. The schedule called for early June. Brock Purdy should be throwing by late May. He obviously is the leader in the clubhouse, the favorite to start for the 49ers at quarterback this season. So right now you've got those 3 guys. You've got Lance, you've got Sam Darnold, you got Brandon Allen working out, but Brock Purdy is going to join that room, and we'll see what kind of work that Lance and Sam Darnold can put on tape this offseason to maybe threaten Brock Purdy's job, but it's obvious that the 49ers have a favorite. One issue is that the favorite for the job, Purdy, hasn't thrown a football since the NFC Championship game. So it might take him a little while to acclimate. It might, we have to see where his arm's going to be. But Purdy, as it stands right now, is lifting weights, is mimicking throwing motions with a towel, and is on track, at least with this early prognosis, to be back in training camp and ready for week 1. That is the goal. That is not yet the expectation, but there's optimism surrounding that goal for Brock Purdy. Cool. All right, let's move on. We talked about Lance. We talked about Sam Darnold. How about Christian McCaffrey? This guy is a complete spark plug. Man, Christian McCaffrey was not part of the 49ers during OTAs last year. They traded for him midseason. So I hadn't had a chance to see this at NFL level. I'd seen Christian McCaffrey at Stanford during spring practices, and yes, he was a spark plug there, but you never know. The guy's been a pro now for several seasons. You never know how that's going to carry over into an NFL offseason workout. I stepped out onto that field. There was energy out there today. I mean, the 49ers had a bouncy practice, and I think the main reason they did was because of Christian McCaffrey. Here's an all-pro, one of the best in the game, shows up to OTAs and is not taking a play off. 110% for Christian McCaffrey. The 49ers today ran a ton of 7-on-7 stuff, and the 11-on-11 stuff they did run was without helmets, so it was no contact. It was just easing back into it, right? Even in that ease back into it mode, Christian McCaffrey was sprinting. I mean, this guy, every single time he took a handoff, it just felt like the field exploded because this guy would just shoot through the line of scrimmage, and you're like, oh, there's Christian McCaffrey, no helmet on. There he is. He's bursting downfield. Boom. He's 20, 30 yards downfield. Everybody's chasing him. McCaffrey is an energy maker out on that field, and I was highly, highly impressed with what the veteran was doing for the 49ers and the entire kind of team morale, the entire practice vibe. Christian McCaffrey was really setting a tone for the 49ers. Drake Jackson, I got a video on this up. Maybe Mike can find this one, the Drake Jackson video. This guy is swole. Is this going to be the Drake Jackson video? I sure hope so. We'll give it a few seconds here, see if it pops up. Yeah, that's it. This is awesome. Hey, even if this is choppy, you could see Drake right there in the middle, and you're going to be able to tell how much bigger he's gotten. My source tells me that Drake Jackson was 252 pounds last year. There he is, number 95. He's up to 265. Look at that. Yes, this is choppy, but it's still effective. Drake Jackson from 252 to 265. He has added 13 pounds of muscle, and it's in that upper body. He's looking solid this year. A lot of excitement for Drake Jackson because the 49ers need a bookending edge rusher for Nick Bosa. Drake Jackson had to come off the field a little too often last year, especially down the stretch, because he was a liability against the run. You'll see this a lot with edge rushers. The lower 250 weight, that's for pass rushing specialists. Those guys have to come off the field when they have to face run blockers, when they have to get a little bit more physical. The guys in the mid 260s, those are the guys that can set the edge. They can be a base down 4-3 guy. Cleveland Farrell is a good example. He's a 265 kind of guy, maybe even 270. He's good against the run. Drake Jackson needed to make himself a more versatile, multiple player this offseason. To do that, he needed to put on some muscle. He needed to put on some weight, and he's done that. He's been at the 49ers facility throughout the offseason. He's been taking the word of the 49ers strength and conditioning staff, and he's up from 252 to 265. As you saw in that choppy video, Drake Jackson is much bigger than he was in the past. On to what happened during 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 stuff, because that Drake Jackson stuff, those were some drills. Isaiah Oliver, the 49ers' new nickelback. They picked him up from the Falcons. He was a free agent. This guy made plays, and he's big for a nickel. I mean, you got 6-foot height with Isaiah Oliver. He's not your typical 5'9", 5'10" nickel. Let me look up Isaiah Oliver's actual height before I say something that's incorrect, because he just seemed like there was some real size here. Yeah, 6 foot. I was right. I was not incorrect. 6 foot, 209 pounds. So the 49ers are entering a new era at nickelback. They're going with a 6-footer. They're not going with a little shutterbug anymore. They're going with somebody who can push people around. And Oliver is rangy. And today there was a play to Chris Conley, deep kind of corner concept. Trey Lance threw it. It looked like Conley was really fast, had some DBs beat, and it looked like Lance's throw was going to hit him in stride. Isaiah Oliver, a lot of range. I do this for Wingspan, a lot of range, went up there, knocked the ball away. Couple pass breakups for him. I think, immediately my conclusion here is the 49ers have a good chance to improve at nickel this year, because Jimmy Ward was playing out of position last season. He wasn't a nickel. He was a safety. Did a good job. He got better as the season went along. But this year they have a dedicated guy there, and there's more size there than they have had before. So look out for Isaiah Oliver. On the other side of the football, look out for Ronnie Bell. 7th-round receiver out of Michigan. We know Kyle Shanahan loved his route running coming out of college. Well, Ronnie Bell also catches the football with great efficiency. Seems like he's got stickum on his hands. I mean, this guy, sticky hands. Didn't come close to dropping a pass today. Didn't come close to dropping a pass when I watched him at rookie minicamp, and he was skying up to make a couple tough catches in traffic there. He just, Ronnie Bell just gives off the vibe of a dependable receiver. That's the way that I'd put it. He gives off the vibe of somebody that you could trust, security blanket kind of receiver. But not just that, he can make some plays too. He made a lot of plays at Michigan in big-time moments. It seems that knack and that DNA, that translates really well to the NFL level. You need a guy who could step up and play bigger than he really is. And Ronnie Bell looks bigger than his 6 foot, 6'1" listing out on the football field because he's an alpha dog. He's confident. He walks out there with his chest puffed out. And he made some big catches today. He made some big catches in rookie minicamp. And, together with Isaiah Oliver, I put him on the same text title here. I think you have two newcomers who make plays. And guys who are able to do that, they typically shine very quickly after you start watching them. And it's a good sign that Isaiah Oliver has shined quickly after I started watching him, and Ronnie Bell has shined quickly after I started watching him. Another impressive play today, Darrell Luter Jr. So Danny Gray went on a go pattern. Looked like he got behind Darrell Luter Jr. Sam Darnold threw a nice ball. It was a deep pass, maybe 40 yards downfield. But guess who closed the gap and was able to knock that ball away? It fired up the 49ers defensive sideline. That was the rookie out of South Alabama, Darrell Luter Jr. I looked at that. I was like, whoo, this guy's got some closing speed. He's not afraid to play physical. He might be able to play on the outside. Danny Gray is not slow. Danny Gray might be the fastest 49ers wide receiver, or by extension, the fastest 49er. Chris Conley probably has something to say about that. But we all know that Danny Gray's a burner. So for Darrell Luter Jr. at 4.4 speed, he's fast as well. For him to be able to close that gap, to me, that was really, really impressive today. So look out for Luter. I know a lot of people talking about him as a potential nickel back. I think he can play outside with that 4.4 speed. It's the same idea that they have with Samuel Womack, right? There's hope that Samuel Womack can develop into a really good outside cornerback because of his speed. So a couple of interesting projects in Womack and Darrell Luter Jr. So that's my little run through of notes. We could go back to Trey Lance here. And, I could talk about the offensive line as well. Up front, Mike, why don't you make a little text title for me? Can you please just say 49ers O-line? And that way people know that we're talking about the O-line if they sign in. But I'm on my phone today since I'm doing this. By the way, those of you joining, this is the O'Hare Airport. I was at OTAs not that long ago, but flew to Chicago. We got a surprise destination coming up this week. But I had to be in Chicago for something tomorrow. There we go. 49ers offensive line. Beautiful. Thanks, Mike. To reduce drag, I didn't want to leave the airport property. So there's a Hilton inside the airport. Look, this is one of the busiest airports in the world. And you could just see the planes taking off and everything, the tarmac. Why can't I get this? Ridiculous. There you go. That's the O'Hare Airport right behind me. Nice little view, right? I can even keep that open. That's pretty cool. So, you literally walk here. You don't have to take a shuttle. You don't have to take anything. It's kind of like that suite in the Atlanta airport that I did the other night, right? Yeah, I had a little suite. I had a 3-hour layover, and I did a whole show from there. That was pretty cool. I love the acoustics in that suite. Hopefully they're not too bad in here. Have to do some quality control after this. Anyway, 49ers offensive line, left to right today. Jalen Moore was the left tackle because Trent Williams wasn't there. That was expected. Aaron Banks at left guard. Jake Brendel at center. Jake Brendel retweeted my kickball video of his. I mean, the 49ers have a third kicker now if they need one. They've got 2 on the team. They've got Jake Moody and Zane Gonzalez. There's some dispute. I thought that Jake Moody made all his field goals. Apparently, I saw Matt Barrows said that he missed the last one. I know Zane Gonzalez missed his 50-yarder. It's hard to tell from the side field. I thought Moody hit his, but maybe the officials say he didn't. At the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. It's the first OTA practice. Both Zane and Moody have strong legs, by the way, but so does Jake Brendel, the 49ers center. Go pull up that video that I tweeted. I put up on YouTube as well. In the SJPD charity kickball game the other day on Sunday afternoon, Jake Brendel just blasted one. And they had a cool camera angle of it, nice and low there. Anyway, Moore, Banks, Brendel, right guard Burford. So you still had Banks, Brendel, Burford. You had the law firm there on the interior. And then Colton McKivitz was the 49ers first string right tackle. Hard to tell anything from that, right? Because with Trent Williams out right now, Jalen Moore has to play left tackle. Jalen Moore can't push Colton McKivitz for right tackle reps. So that was the 49ers first team line. I can tell you what their second team line was because it's all in my notes here. So second team line, left to right. Well, why don't we start at the center? Keith Ishmael was the second team center. That was the player they picked up off from Washington last year. Washington actually picked Keith Ishmael in the 5th round out of San Diego State with one of the picks the 49ers sent them for Trent Williams. So technically, originally a 49ers draft pick. Keith Ishmael was the center. Nick Zakel played left guard. Il Manning played right guard. That's the rookie undrafted free agent out of Hawaii. And then we saw Joey Fisher also. No, I'm sorry. That was third team. Second team, John Feliciano was the right guard. John Feliciano was the right guard. Nick Zakel was the left guard. Matt Pryor, the projected swing tackle, at least he's going to battle it out with Jalen Moore, was right tackle for the 49ers. And then they put Leroy Watson in at left tackle. And Leroy Watson, as second team left tackle, This guy's made a lot of progress. This is somebody that I would really look out for. Leroy Watson was a tight end at San Antonio, teammates with Spencer Burford, and he's put on like 40 to 50 pounds now in his second year at the NFL level. This weight that he's put on, he actually looks like a 300-plus pound tackle now. He just doesn't just look like a glorified tight end like he did on the practice squad last year. So Leroy Watson is now the second team left tackle at these 49ers practices. It obviously helps that Trent Williams isn't there, but there has been some ascension in the pecking order. Now, the third team offensive line, this is more of the rookies, right? So you saw Corey Luciano at center. Joey Fisher played some guard on that line. Il Manning played some right guard. That is the other undrafted free agent who came out of Hawaii. Just a really stocky but athletic guy. John Feliciano, by the way, second-team guard who has a chance to start for the 49ers this year. He's going to be competing. The veteran, he's also really wide, really stocky. You look at that physique, and you're like, oh, okay, that guy's a guard. That guy's a true guard physique. Meanwhile, I think Jalen Moore even got to rotate in with the third team after he saw some of those first-team snaps. It was all non-contact stuff because the 49ers didn't have enough tackles. But that was a look at the offensive linemen. Jason Poe also saw some of those third-team snaps for the 49ers. At one of the guard positions. And I know a lot of people are curious about Jason Poe. So am I. That is definitely a guard's body, short, stocky, but really athletic for this 49er system. And we'll see how that progresses moving forward. And we'll see, something like veteran minicamp will be really interesting because Trent Williams will presumably be at that. And then we'll see, okay, who exactly is the 49ers leader for that swing tackle role entering the offseason break? Is it Matt Pryor? Is it Jalen Moore? At this point, it's really, really hard to tell. All right, so I'm going to go to the comment section. Let's see what's going on. How is everybody doing? You're disappointed Debo didn't show up? Well, Nick Bosa wasn't there either. These guys are working out on their own. They're not. The coaching staff is not torn up about this, so I don't think that fans should be either. This is mainly work for the rookies to learn the playbook. The guys who already know their way around. Yes, Christian McCaffrey is a special breed. Christian McCaffrey loves showing up and setting the tone. That's Christian McCaffrey. But, other guys, they call Christian McCaffrey a mini Bosa, right? And that's in fully complimentary terms because of how hard he works. And Nick Bosa famously doesn't go to OTAs. So it doesn't make you a worse teammate for not being at OTAs if you're an established veteran. That's just, it's just how it is. It's just one of those things where the rookies are learning the playbook, doing all that good stuff. There's a reason why OTAs are optional. They're not mandatory. We have to remember these are not mandatory. The mandatory part's the veteran minicamp. And if Deebo Samuel's not there, well, at that point, I think you could legitimately be disappointed. But, saying that you're disappointed that he's not at an optional practice, well, it's an optional practice for a reason. Smash that like button. Hell yeah. Yeah, Jalen Moore did not do well when Trent went down in Denver, and that led to McKivitz. So McKivitz officially leapfrogged Jalen Moore on that depth chart. Best airport foodie or no hair? Well, I'll tell you what, there's a frustration. United was delayed me I would say 20 or 30 minutes. They said that they had to clear out the toilets in the plane, so I guess that's good. So the toilets were clogged when we flew from San Francisco to Chicago. But that delay meant that I got to the check-in desk here at the Hilton at the O'Hare Airport at exactly midnight, and that's when they were closing their last restaurant. So if they hadn't delayed me, if they had been on top of their shit, literally speaking, with the lavatories, if they had been on top of their shit, then, and I'm speaking about United right now, then I wouldn't have been late. And I would have been here at 11:40, maybe even 11:30, and the restaurants would have still been open. Instead, I'm a little bit hungry, but it is healthier to not eat this late at night. And it's already 12:50 a.m. now at this point. So I'll just save it for the morning, and that's totally okay. And we'll have a good day tomorrow eating in Chicago. If Trent Williams goes down, the 49ers are royally screwed. Well, yeah, he's one of the best players, if not the best player in football. So it would hurt if he went down. That being said, maybe your tackle depth surprises you. Colton McKivitz surprised some people last year. Short action, obviously. And you've got to continue working, building that pipeline. So who knows what Jalen Moore is going to do? Who knows what Matt Pryor is going to do? They signed him. That helps as well. And then you move forward into some of the deeper depth on this team. Leroy Watson, maybe even Joey Fisher, even though Joey Fisher worked out at guard today as expected. All right, I'm scrolling down for some more questions. Training camp starts something like July 25th, I want to say. Somewhere around there. Don't quote me on the exact date. Thank you, Emma. Oh, Emma's your daughter. I get it. Your YouTube is in your daughter's name. All right. So you're not Emma. How did Jordan Mason? I thought Jordan Mason looked pretty good today. Jordan Mason made a couple catches out of the backfield. Jordan Mason looked nice and bouncy. You know, these running backs, I always say the same thing. It's really hard to tell until there's actual tackling to the ground. The running backs, it's hard to evaluate them until the preseason. But Jordan Mason has a track record, right? Jordan Mason has some feathers in his cap from last season, so you could be confident that he's going to be ready to go. And I thought with that as a basis in my mind, with last season's success there fresh in my head, I thought that Jordan Mason did look good today. Yep, Joey Fisher finished practice today. And, you know, I hate that speculation that was on the internet last time. I mean, he might have tweaked something last time. It was nothing to worry about. He's sitting there with his hands on his hips talking with some of the coaches. You know, it's so irresponsible to start saying, oh, Joey Fisher is not in shape because he didn't finish some practice. These guys tweak something all the time. It's part of the sport. Joey Fisher's a unit. I mean, you really think a guy who put up, like 40 bench press reps, the most out of anybody at the combine, isn't tough enough or isn't in good enough shape to finish a practice? I mean, that's preposterous. And to spread rumors based on conjecture, you know, on that basis is not fair to Joey Fisher. He's fighting hard to make this football team. Marcelino McCrary-Ball, yeah, he's one of the guys trying to take that spot left behind by Aziz, but so is D. Winters, so is Jalen Graham. All those guys are going to be in a spirited competition. Kinlaw looks lean. Kinlaw looks strong. But, again, there was no contact today up front. So I don't know who's going to be performing well and who's not going to be performing well once, you know, actual live action starts. That's why we got to pump the brakes here at OTAs. I was out there today to see the line rotations. I've reported those. I was out there today to see some of the skill players and their presence out on the field. I've reported that. And I was out there, obviously, to see the throwing motion from Trey Lance, and I've reported that. There has been progress with Trey Lance in terms of that throwing motion. I think Sam Darnold's got a good arm. I mean, he's a third-round pick. I mean, he had the nicest deep passes today. He threw one to Brian Greasy in warm-ups, 49ers QB coach, who dropped it. So shame on Brian Greasy for dropping it. Although I will say, you know, all kidding aside, Brian Greasy is the most active quarterback coach I've ever seen. He loves running pass patterns. His coaching style is really hands-on. Later on, Sam Darnold then threw that deep pass to Danny Gray, who wasn't able to hold on to it when Darrell Luter Jr. broke it up. So Darnold's got arm talent. One of the nicest plays today was Braden Willis, rookie tight end. Really like a fastball from Sam Darnold, but it was a little bit low. Willis made this diving one-handed catch. Like he was way trying to like illustrate this. I can't really dive in front of the camera here in the hotel room, so it's a little bit awkward right now. But it wasn't headlong. He really lunged forward, though, reached out with his arm, scooped the ball off the ground. It wasn't on the ground yet. He prevented it from hitting the ground. That was one of the nicest catches of the day for Braden Willis, the 49ers rookie tight end out of Oklahoma. Stronger arm, Sam or Trey? We couldn't tell today. You know, the 49ers, they run a shorter to intermediate passing offense, so they're not trying to rip it 85 yards downfield, especially at practice. So there was no real exhibition today to tell. I would just go with Sam Darnold just for now, bigger school guy who, you know, has had more time to refine his arm. We know that Trey Lance is going through. I have a big article on Trey Lance coming tomorrow morning about where he's at mentally. He seems happier. He says that he's happier and more confident than he has ever been because he's finally been able to work on some of the mechanical stuff instead of trying to recover from injury. So because of that, I think that Trey Lance might be a little bit behind as far as some of his development goes. And Sam Darnold's obviously already been in the league for a few years. He'd probably give the edge to Sam. Is this team set up to maximize Trey's abilities? Well, are you saying that he's a really good deep passer? I haven't seen all too much evidence of that yet. I mean, yeah, Lance has a big arm, but he's a better deep passer than Garoppolo. Is he a better deep passer than Purdy? Is he a better deep passer than Sam Darnold? I mean, he's got to prove it first, you know. I mean, he's got to deliver downfield consistently. He's thrown one nice pass in game action downfield that I could think of, and that was in preseason, and that was to Danny Gray, right? So I think that you look at the 49ers and how their offense is constructed, we can make assumptions about Trey Lance, right? We could say, okay, yeah, he's got a strong arm and he should be able to stretch the field more. And that's why they have these speedsters, you know, waiting in the wings, and Danny Gray and maybe even Chris Conley. But Trey's got to do it first. I mean, Brock Purdy threw some nice passes downfield last year. Jimmy Garoppolo threw some dimes downfield over the past couple of years when the 49ers dialed those up. So Trey's got to be able to show that he can do the same thing in the regular season, because the 49ers are never going to run an all verticals offense. It's just not how they're built. That's not reflective of the quarterback play. It's reflective of how Kyle Shanahan wants to play offense. They're going to run a short to intermediate passing game to complement a bruising run game, and they're going to mix in some calculated deep strikes with that, right? So when you mix in those calculated deep strikes, you got to be able to hit them. You've got to be able to take advantage of when the defense is getting a little too tight toward the line of scrimmage. So I think that the offense is set to maximize the abilities of any quarterback who has a versatile skill set as far as being able to throw short and then obviously hit that important pass downfield. And this comes from the whole dink and dunk argument that was really, really stupid here over the past few days. There are no NFL offenses that live off of 40-plus yard bombs. Those are lower percentage passes for any quarterback in the league. So you're seeing air yards across the league go down because the short passing game to set up yak. It's the way the league is operating, to diffuse pass rushes, to maximize the fact that, you know, I think receivers are better at breaking tackles than defenders are at tackling, especially DBs. The 49ers are at the forefront of setting up yak, going to the short game, going to the intermediate game. You've seen Brock Purdy light it up in intermediate numbers. No quarterback on documented record by PFF over the last 20 years has had a better completion percentage on intermediate passes than Brock Purdy this past year. So my answer to your question, I know it's an elongated one, is you better be good at what the 49ers do, and that is attacking all parts of the field with various degrees of frequency, right? And if, you know, you're Trey Lance and all you can do is air it out, and we don't even know that his accuracy in airing it out is still dubious. We don't know how accurate he's going to be over the long run airing it out. If that's all you can do, though, you're not going to succeed. You better be able to succeed in the short game. The gimmies, those are so important. That's where Trey Lance has struggled in the past to begin his career. And you better be able to succeed in the intermediate game. Those two are more important because then you take that calculated shot downfield. So anyway, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think it's as simple as what you're asking. Oh, let's get a burner out there and let's have Trey Lance just chuck up bombs. Just not how this works for the 49ers offense. You know, Kyle can always incorporate some air raid, but the air raid doesn't give you as good of an opportunity to run out of the formation. Kyle Shanahan is all about ambidexterity offensively. And by that, I mean the ability to run or pass at any given time out of any given formation. That's what's really important to Kyle Shanahan. So if you just spread five wide out there, all of a sudden your ability to run the football is a little bit more compromised. The air raid assumes you've got all wide receivers and the tight end is acting like a wideout. Kyle Shanahan's going to be a little bit more in line with his schemes. Again, a lot of these questions, I'm starting to get the idea that you guys are looking at this like a video game, and it's not like Madden. The 49ers are actually the opposite. They're trying to run more than they pass because they think that it can dictate game flow. That you don't just spread everybody out in the NFL and hope for the best. That's a quick way to get your quarterback killed by the opposing pass rush. I'll tell you what, this is not exactly the way that Kyle Shanahan doesn't look at it. The way the 49ers are trying to hit deep passes as a byproduct and a result of the offense crowding the box too much to stop the run. That's where the 49ers take their deep shots. The 49ers aren't sitting back in shotgun 4 wide, 5 wide, throwing deep to set up the game and then running the football off of that. That's just not how Kyle Shanahan has worked philosophically. So I think anybody who's expecting the 49ers and Trey Lance to start the season, I mean, that might happen. Who knows? But anybody who's expecting him to take over as quarterback and then just start ripping the ball 50 yards downfield on the first 5 downs of the game to set something else up, that's not how it's going to work. The 49ers set stuff up with read option. They set stuff up with, their spider 2-eye banana concepts and all that. They're going to set stuff up with the short game is what I'm saying. The short to intermediate game, and then they're going to take their calculated shots downfield. And, it doesn't matter if Trey Lance is your quarterback or if Brock Purdy's your quarterback or if, Josh Allen comes in and, is traded from the Bills and is your quarterback. I think Kyle Shanahan's going to run stuff philosophically in a similar way. Trey Lance is, you look at Lance, what he brings to the table that's different than what the other quarterbacks have is probably a little bit more straight line speed. The escapability, I don't want to say because Brock Purdy already has it, but the straight line speed to run that read option, 49ers run game can get more complicated. The defense has to account for one other potential attacker in the run game, and that can open up more intermediates and maybe even more deep passes downfield. But that's where Trey Lance's comparative advantage comes in. Yes, the deep plays, this summarizes it. The deep plays come off play action set up by the run. Kyle Shanahan has never been a straight, deep offensive coordinator, and you don't see many of those in the league. Russell Wilson is a quarterback that has to go deep because he doesn't see the intermediate of the field. He's a little bit shorter, right? So the short to intermediate passes aren't his forte. So he's a deep forte quarterback just because that's how he's gleaned efficiency in the past. He's the exception, though, in the National Football League right now, not the rule. And obviously, it didn't go all too well for Denver and Russell Wilson last season. With Matt Ryan, they were still running to set up the play action. I mean, they had Julio Jones. Julio Jones was an intermediate monster that year for Atlanta. So, yeah, I mean, it was a similar offense. Now he's going to tailor it differently to each team. The 49ers have been a bigger rushing juggernaut than Atlanta ever was, but it's important to emphasize that Kyle Shanahan's going to have the same overarching principles, but he's going to tailor, smaller things and smaller nuances to the personnel that he has at each different team. Can the defense be better than last year? I certainly think so. I am on the train of the 49ers defense can be better. Drake Jackson's bulked up. If he can show prowess coming off that edge, well, there you go. Drake Jackson can bookend Nick Bosa, and you have Javon Hargrave this year, and you didn't have him last year. Defensive tackle was a weakness last year. It's a strength this year. They're already the number 1 defense in the league with defensive tackle being a weakness. So what does that tell you? Now that it's a strength, they should be better. Now they lost some defensive ends, but they can get better at defensive end, especially if Hargrave is supporting them from the inside if somebody like Drake Jackson steps up. And you saw earlier, I reported Drake Jackson up to 265 pounds. It was only 252 last year. That could be the ticket for the 49ers being better there. Linebacker should be just as good, if not better, right? Those guys just now entering their primes. They're in their mid-20s. That's phenomenal. 49ers already have all-pro linebacker play from guys in their mid-20s in Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. Then you go to the defensive backfield. Isaiah Oliver was making plays all over the place today. I think they're going to get better at nickel. They were already really good at corner last year to close the season, right? With Charvarius Ward and Diomito Lenoir. Corner, Ward, Lenore, Oliver, those are studs. Now, the depth is a little concerning, so you've got to solve the depth issue. Who's going to step up? Is it going to be Ambry Thomas, who looked a little bulked up to me today? That could be a good sign for the 49ers. You got to step up at corner depth, and you have to step up at that opposite edge spot. So all eyes on Drake Jackson. All eyes on Ambry Thomas and company. If the 49ers can solve those issues, if they stay decently healthy, yes, this can be a better defense than last year. Even Jim Everett says the 49ers pass rush will be better. It's the first time that we've seen a non-trolling comment from Jim Everett. We'll put him up on the screen more often, our resident Rams fan, if he's got some good comments like that. But he studies the 49ers closely because he watches every show. So hello to Jim. Hope you're having a great night. Mitchell and Ness doesn't see the 49ers losing week 1 against Pickett. You never know, though. That I didn't see him losing week 1 last year against Justin Fields either, but the monsoon was not kind to the 49ers. I don't think that Armstead plays more defensive end this year. He's more effective at defensive tackle. That's his spot. That's his bread and butter. His body type has stayed consistent. He's there to play defensive tackle for the 49ers. Never say never to what? To Armstead playing inside or to the Steelers beating, or outside, or to the Steelers beating the 49ers? I have a lot of thoughts about the draft picks. I've shared them all in videos. You got to ask me a more specific question than that, though, because otherwise I'll just sit here for 5 hours talking about all the 49ers draft picks. There's a lot of content that's already up and stuff that I'm still working on that attacks the draft picks specifically, that we tackle those issues one by one. Thoughts on corner? Corner's fine. I mean, Deomer Lenore's good. Charvarius Ward is good. And Isaiah Oliver's good. The front line is fine. The question is, do the 49ers have the depth to withstand some injuries there? That's where the development, that's where the work this offseason has to come through. Beal is a high ceiling, low floor kind of player. Robert Beal Jr. I mean, epic 40, right? He's got 4.47 speed at 247 pounds. I mean, he's got D Ford-like burst measurables. If the 49ers can find the right spots for him, which is just pinning his ears back, pass situations, getting after the passer against probably the weaker of the two offensive tackles that the 49ers are facing on a week-to-week basis, I think that Robert Beal Jr. could be really damn good. Just as a situational kind of guy, because Chris Kaserik can coach him up. But if injuries start happening and you have to play him a little bit out of position, and he's got to be out there against the run more often than not, and if your defense is playing on its heels instead of on its toes, then it could be a rougher start for Robert Beal Jr. So the 49ers are confident that they could take a guy like this, who's got such high upside, but obviously a little bit lower downside because there are concerns about his ability to be a 3-down player. You take a guy like that, you trust in your depth, you trust in your coaching, and you pigeonhole him. You intentionally pigeonhole him into a role that he's going to excel at. That's where the 49ers are going to go. I mean, almost certainly Jake Moody's going to win the kicker job. Zane Gonzalez is around because he's on a favorable contract that the 49ers can shop, right? They can take Zane Gonzalez's deal and trade it to somebody who needs a kicker before the season starts, and maybe even flip him for a profit. It's a smart move to pick up Zane Gonzalez, but Jake Moody, they used the 3rd-round pick on him, so he's the odds-on favorite for the 49ers. I do think there's good signs for Ambry Thomas. He looked a little bit bigger this year. Looked like he put on a little bit of strength. He might be in one of my videos up there. I think the reel that I put out of all the 49ers, the look into practice. So go ahead and take a look at that. No definitive, material yet from actual action for Ambry Thomas, but I do think that he looked good. All right, good stuff, guys. 45-minute show. That will be it for today. Hello from the O'Hare Airport. 49ers got a Brock Purdy news boost today. He might be back for week 1. At least they're very optimistic about it. I flew to Chicago right after practice. Got a surprise destination coming for you soon. But for the time being, I just wanted to get that 49ers OTA report in for you. Nice little late night Lombardi live. And oh my God, we just boosted up to 312 viewers. Makes me not want to sign off. If that number keeps on growing, then I won't sign off. I'm really hungry though. The problem is I'm not going to get food because everything's shut down on me. Because again, United, get your shit together. Literally so. Your lavatory needed servicing. While at the time at SFO, when we were already supposed to be pushing back and taking off. Because of that 20-minute delay, because of that, I show up here at the Hilton O'Hare Airport at exactly midnight. Guess what time everything closed? Exactly midnight. It was a tragedy. So I'll be hungry until the morning, and we'll get a good breakfast here in Chicago. Good Chicago breakfast recommendations? Toss them in the comment section. Please do. I'll be monitoring. And I'll go and maybe we'll do a little breakfast with Lombardi, coffee or Lombardi, whatever you could. The Lombardi AM Scramble. Maybe we'll do one of those from the Windy City here tomorrow. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hope you like the OTA coverage. It's been fun. I'll talk to you all very soon.